Welcome back to the 513 podcast. I'm Nicholas Nicol, aka Bengals. I'm here with a new member of the team, Vince, aka Sam Hubbard enthusiast, and a very special guest. Played for played for Colgate in college, Ger- German Football League, best TikToker on the platform, Abu. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I truly appreciate it.
Of course.
Man, yeah, man, great to have you. All right, let's get this started. First question I have for you is, can you just tell us about I heard about the German Football League. You try making it to all these European Football League, XFL, all 31 teams. COVID struck you. Can you just tell us about the journey you've had to make it to the NFL?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was pretty difficult, honestly. Going into college. Coming out of college. I mean, I was very well. I had a lot of accolades. I was a Patriot League Rookie of the Year. I was first team All Patriot League every year, and at the defensive back position. I was a first team Patriot League returner back to back seasons. I was second team one year. I was a two-time All American. So I had all the accolades. I attended the College Gridiron Showcase, the big school showcase, and I showed out there, did exactly what I needed to do. And I felt like, everything was in place. I was training with Yo Murphy at the time down in Florida with guys like Henry Ruggs and Jordan Fuller and Noah Igbenagamine. So everything was in place. Everything, was good. I was talking to teams, speaking to specific teams. They were very intrigued by me and they liked what I had to offer. And it seemed as if, I was going to get ready to get drafted, and teams were discussing, bringing me in for private workouts, and those are huge. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'm excited for this. And then I had a pro day that I was going to go to down in Colombia because that's down there where a lot of scouts were going to be. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to that pro day. That was that was going to be on a Wednesday. On Tuesday, there was a pro day at University at Buffalo. I decided not to go to back-to-back pro days because I didn't want the numbers to hurt me. So Columbia was probably my best bet. So I woke up that Tuesday morning and coming to find out that the Columbia Pro Day got canceled. And I was kind of devastated. And I was like, well, do I have enough time to get in my car and go to Buffalo? And, sitting on my butt for 4 hours and then trying to perform would be very, very difficult. So I was like, you know what, there's another pro day at Army, coming up. So, I'm just going to wait for that. That also got canceled. COVID struck, and I'm just like, man, this is getting really, really difficult. And at the time, my campus kind of, I don't want to say evacuated, but, they allowed students to go home and finish the semester. I stayed because, we had a few cases on campus and I was nervous. I didn't want to give it back to my 61-year-old mother. So I decided to stay on campus and actually ended up contracting COVID, lost a lot of weight, super sick. And it was difficult for me, but I ended up getting better. And I put together a pro day of my own. My coaches just videotaping some stuff. I always thought that would be enough, but I never really had a chance to meet or work out in front of an NFL scout. So when I didn't hear my name get called on draft day, and I didn't get that phone call afterwards, as an undrafted free agent, I mean, it was very, very traumatizing for me. It was very difficult. Thinking about that day still brings tears to my eyes. But then, I decided to, go back home, finish my degree. So I graduated college with a bachelor's of arts in African American studies, which was, my mother was very proud of me. But at that time, I was working just, side to side jobs. I worked at Amazon, I worked at BJ's restaurant, and I worked at Best Buy. And I actually lost my job at Best Buy in December because my family contracted COVID, and I didn't. I tested negative, but I was still in their vicinity. So I had to step away from work for about a week or two, and they had to let me go because they were on a hiring freeze anyways, and they had to start letting go their seasonal position people, which was me. So I was out of work for a while, and it was really difficult. And I got reached out to by David Saul from the Potsdam Royals, and I've been ducking it because I never heard of German football. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find much on it. I didn't know what to think about it. I saw the pay and I was like, man, this pay is nothing like compared to even what I'm working right now. And it was very difficult for me to wrap my head around it. But I sat and talked to my agent, and basically, we were like, listen, go there, play a year, get as much film as possible to try to get to the NFL next season, and we'll see what we can do. So I decided to sign that contract, and boy, I was terrified. I was so terrified. I didn't know, traveling 4,000 plus miles away from home and just, being somewhere that I've never been before without my family. It was scary, but definitely what I needed. It was the best time of my life.
Was
I love
the language barrier any difficulty at times?
it. Not really, actually. A lot of people there spoke English, especially when I was in the Berlin area. Everyone spoke English. Practice was in English. All the guys spoke English. It was maybe one or two guys that struggled with English a little bit, but the language barrier wasn't difficult at all. But definitely, it was definitely an experience for me. I enjoyed it, and I told myself, if I couldn't get in the NFL within the next 2 years, I was going to spend the rest of my career in Germany with the Potsdam Royals. Came back home, decided I wanted to go try out for a CFL team. BC Lions had a tryout coming up. I was like, I worked for it, I trained for it, did everything I needed to do. Balled out. We did one-on-ones. I balled out during one-on-ones. Some of the receivers would say, like, Abu was the best DB here. He was the best DB here. And I was like, you know what? I think that speaks for itself if the receivers are saying that. And I'm thinking that, BC Lions are going to pull the trigger. And, I just never heard from them. And then one of my cousins reached out to me and told me to just send him my stats from Germany. And he did this like 3 times throughout the year, and I never really knew what he was doing with it. Not knowing that he had a connect that he worked with at Ohio State. I think it was a neurologist, and he was good friends with one of my coaches, Coach Mark Duffner, and he reached out to Mark Duffner, and Mark reached out to me, and me and Mark had a conversation for a month long, him trying to get me a workout. And I was supposed to leave to go to Germany on April 19th. And then on April 18th, the night before I was supposed to leave to go to Germany, Mark calls me and is like, "Hey, Abu, we want to bring you in for a tryout so you can stay here in the U.S." And it was one of those moments for me where it's just like, I finally get an opportunity. And in my head, if I didn't get signed, I still would have been content because I finally had gotten the opportunity that I never had over the last 2 years. Oh, snap. I would have never had it. It's been 2 years and I never had that opportunity. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I trained for a month. And then the day before my tryout, Mark called me. He's like, "Hey, listen, Bill, because testing is one thing. I mean, I'm going to test out of the roof. I'm going to run fast. I'm going to jump high. But I wanted them to know that I'm an athlete. I wanted them to know that I'm a football player." That's what I told Mark. So then he went back to the staff and he was like, "Listen, we're going to bring you in with our rookies through our little rookie mini camp, our 1-day thing." He's like, "That's what you wanted, right?" I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted." I was like, "I wanted to show you how well I can compare to the guys that you're paying millions of dollars." I was like, "I want to show you how well I compare to them and how well I can compete with them and how well I can compete at a high level." So then that happened, and I went down there, did everything I needed to do. We did all the tests, and then it was the morning of the rookie mini camp, and of course I was nervous, but I was very confident. I had prepared for this, and I was ready for this my entire life. And after practice, one of the coaches came up to me and was like, "Hey, listen, Abu, I think you had a pretty good practice." He said, "We have a coaches meeting at 11 o'clock. I'll give you a call afterwards." And at this time, it's like 10:45, and I'm freaking out. I go in, I take a shower. 11 o'clock hits. I'm trying to eat lunch, and I'm with the guys, and I'm like, "Guys, I got to get up. I can't do this." And they're like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Dude, I feel like I'm going to throw up." Couldn't eat. The nerves were running through my body. I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, just keep on praying. They're gonna give me a call here soon." I went back to the hotel, tried to go up to my room. My key didn't work, and I'm thinking I got cut. Went back downstairs, and I was like, "Hey, can I get my key working again?" And as I clicked the button for the elevator, my agent called me. He's like, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?" I was like, "I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?" He's like, "I'm doing fine." And then the phone starts cutting out, and all I hear is Germany. And I almost started crying because I'm like, man, I didn't get signed. Like, he's telling me I'm going to have to go back to Germany and play another season. I tell him, like, "Hey, Matt, like, I can't hear you. Like, can you tell me what you just said again?" He's like, "Yes." He said, "Abu, cancel your flight to Germany." And I sat there and I was like, "I got signed?" He goes, "Congratulations. You just got signed." And it just felt like everything that I worked for, that little kid inside of me, that's my 6-year-old self, was just in shock. It was hard to feel any type of emotions, but I broke down in tears and I begged him. I said, "Can I please just call my mom?" And I told my mom, I said, "Mom, if I get signed, when I call you, all I'm going to say is who day." And I called her and she's looking at me and I'm crying. She goes, "But what happened? What happened?" And I look at her with tears in my face and I just say, "Mom, who day?" She repeats who day louder and louder and louder. And all I can see is my mom break down in tears. And I'm in the middle of the hotel lobby and I drop to my knees and I'm just crying because it seems like everything that I was worked for, I finally got a chance to show it. Everything that I sacrificed up to this moment has finally come to fruition. And I finally got the opportunity that I prayed for, that I cried for, that I bled for, that I worked hard for. And it seemed like everything was finally falling into place. And all the emotions were just hitting me all at once. And I just didn't know what to feel. And the tears just kept coming down. It just felt like the whole world stopped, honestly. But that's kind of how it came about.
That's amazing, honestly. I mean, I love that story like so much. You know, you've gone through so much hardship and difficulties and challenges, especially with COVID. You know, and to see you overcome like this, it's really inspiring. And I was wondering, could you also tell us about the journey your mom's been on and what she's meant to you being a part of this?
Man, my mom is that she's that type of lady that has that never quit attitude. I was born in 96, and I don't know if you guys were aware, but between 1991 and 2002, Sierra Leone was a part of a civil war, and a civil war that my family was a part of. My father was a diamond dealer in Sierra Leone, and he actually died in that war before I was born. And I was born in Sierra Leone, so my mother had me during the war, and we had to escape in some sense. Like we had to find refuge here in the United States, and my mother had to go through a lot. She had to basically start her whole life over without a husband, but she had two kids, me and my brother. But me and my brother got separated for 9 years because she could only get a visa for one of us. And just seeing my mom, you know, there would be days where I wouldn't see my mom for 3 days because she's working so much, and every time I see her, she's asleep. And she just had that never quit attitude until her kids were here. And then 9 years later, after me and my brother have been separated for so long, she found a way to reunite us. And me and my brother, luckily, we're still building our relationship because we missed out on just the crucial years of childhood and teenagehood and just pre-adolescence and all that type of stuff. We missed out on that a lot. But even till this day, we're working on that relationship, and him and I live together now. But my mother's been through so much. I mean, she's had so much trauma. She's had so much sickness. I mean, she's always worked 2 to 3 jobs. And just seeing her constantly do that and like see the tears come from her eyes and her wipe her tears and put her clothes back on and go to work, it made me think in my head, like, Abu, you can't quit. Like you came out of this woman's womb who sacrificed her life for you. She could have died in that war. She could have given you up. She could have ran without you, but she decided to hold on to you tightly and kept you by her side all this time. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm not allowed to give up, because if I give up now just because I couldn't make it to the NFL because of, COVID, I mean, what does that say to her? She was in a war and she didn't give up. So, I felt my mom going through that journey really did inspire me, and it made me a stronger human being day in and day out. And to have that never quit attitude has just, has been ingrained in me. And I'm a person that never quit. I'm not going to quit until I see a clear sign from God that it's time to step away from this. And I had a lot of questions about that during my journey, but something inside of me just kept saying, it's not over. And it's funny because about a month before I got signed by the Bengals, my mom was like, "Boo, maybe you can still make it to the NFL." And I was, there was tears in my eyes. I said, "Mom, there's no way I'm making it to the NFL." I said, my agent said, there's a slim chance I can make it in. My name's not in the NFL. No one's worried about me. No one's heard my name. Like, I've been in Germany. Like, no one cares about me anymore. Or like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the NFL. She told me, she goes, "Abu, if it's God's plan for you, it's going to happen. Trust me." I was like, "Mom, I don't know. I don't know about that." And then a month later, we sit and reminisce about it. And she was just like, "I told you." And I was like, "Yeah, you did." So she's always had faith in me, even when I started losing faith in myself.
Yeah, man. I mean, it sounds like you've went through a lot to get through the process of being here. I mean, proud of you for that, man. Looks like you just never gave up. But I have a question about just more football related. During OTAs and going into training camp, how much have you been working with coaches and the veterans, and like how have you been trying to improve to try to make sure you get a roster spot or make it to the practice squad, just stay and keep the grind going with Cincinnati?
I mean, I've been working with my coaches a lot, actually. I had difficulties at first learning the playbook just because I'm at a brand new position that I've never learned. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with the nickel position, and I wasn't, I'm not used to that at all. So I've been getting in with my coaches a lot to just try to understand the defense from a whole different type of perspective because I've always played boundary corner. So I've had like two reads and then that's it for me. But now, I'm taking on a bigger role. So I've been getting in with the veterans like Jalen Davis, JD, Mike Hilton, and Eli Apple has been someone that's also taken me under his wing and just helped me just stay focused. Trey Flowers has been someone who's honestly just helped me calm down and stop being so tough on myself because I am my biggest critic. But Trey Flowers really sat me down with one of my coaches, actually my defensive back coach, Coach Burks, and just basically, telling me like, you need to relax. Like, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Like you're a hell of an athlete and you're thinking way too much. Just go out there and play. I had that conversation with Coach Burks, and Coach Burks, man, he was tough on me and I never knew why, but it always takes a while for me to understand. But like, I know he expects a lot out of me. And till this day, like I told him, I was like, man, thank you. Cause, I didn't know why you were hard on me, but I see it now. Like everything, you weren't just teaching me to be a football player. You were teaching me to be a man. You were teaching me to be a father. You were teaching me to be a husband. Like he was teaching me more than just football. And I didn't understand it at first, but now it was all starting to click. And after having that conversation with them, my last week of OTAs was like really, really good. Like I was practicing well. I knew what I was doing because I was playing more loose. And I didn't know that all I had to do was just, take a breath, relax, and just go with the flow. I'm thinking like, oh, I got to think. But, these guys really took me under their wing and, they're making sure like, I'm on top of my game. Of course, they're holding me accountable for everything. But, they're really being there for me as brothers and as teammates. And honestly, I can see why they made it so far as far as they did last season, because you can feel that brotherhood in there. Like everyone looks out for one another and everyone is accountable of one another. So it's definitely done good to me.
For sure. I mean, that's something that a lot of people noticed about Cincinnati last season, I would say, and it's definitely been one of the identities of this team. As far as going with making connections stuff, can you tell us about the impact like coaches like Duff and Jeff have had on your career?
Oh man, especially Coach Duff, man. Coach Duff has been a blessing to me and my family because out of 32 NFL teams and so many coaches, all it took was him. He believed in me. He saw the work I put in and he knew that I deserved a chance. And for him to go out of his way and like reach out so much for me, and like for him doing that, I knew I owed it to him to do my best, to give my best, and to work my tail off because there was no way I was going to embarrass him. He went out on a limb for me to be brought into that facility and he had to pull so many strings. So a guy like having that connection with Duff, man, he's been a blessing to me, honestly. He's been such a blessing to me and my family. And having him on my side has probably been the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
I mean, look, just sounds like you really like learn from the coaches a lot so far during OTAs, and with training camp in 2 weeks, there's a lot more to learn. But I mean, that's all I have for questions. Vince, you got anything else?
Yeah, of course. Can you tell us the relationship between you and Eli Apple? I read up on you a little bit. It seems like Eli Apple's been the one that's been closest for you so far in these OTAs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When I was in high school, I was a big Ohio State fan. Always been a huge Ohio State fan, and Eli Apple was a name that's always caught my eye. And he was a defensive back just like me. And, watching him play and supporting Ohio State as much as I did, seeing him going in the first round and all this is just like I was like, man, like that's Eli Apple. And also his uncle is Michael Blackson, who's also been one of my favorite comedians. So it seems like everything just lined up perfectly. Seeing his journey throughout the NFL. I mean, he takes a lot of criticism, but seeing Eli and Apple and see the way he practices, see the way he watches film and how critical he is. Like he is a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal player and he's a phenomenal athlete and he's a phenomenal person. And, that's someone I definitely want to look up to. And, people can say what they want to say about him and his game, but that's someone I definitely want to look up to. And, it was weird because, when I got to Cincy, I was just like, oh, Eli, I've studied your game. Your uncle's one of my favorite comedians. All this, and we got real close. And he's Ghanaian, and I'm Sierra Leonean. So those African roots also help us become very close. I've hung out with him a few times. Him and I just hung out, chill. Him and I text back and forth, all that. So he's been like a big brother. Like I said, he's just taken me under his wing and just help me with the process. And he's one of those guys that's just like, yo, boo, you just gotta relax. At the end of the day, everything's gonna work out. Don't forget, like, you're a hell of an athlete. Never forget that, and just push yourself, of course. But like, all these coaches know that you're a great athlete. Now you just have to show them. You can't think too much. You just got to play football just like you can. As at the end of the day, it's a game that you've been playing since you were a kid. Hearing words from him like that, it's kind of crazy to me, just because he played at the highest level. He played in the Super Bowl. He's been in those big moments. For him to just think about it as at the end of the day, it's still just a game. It helped me really just calm down. So Eli Apple is someone that I definitely look up to on the team, and somebody that I definitely want to learn from, and I'm going to learn from a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Eli. We actually had a interview with Eli Apple like last month, and he was probably the nicest and coolest people that we've had around here. So I understand like the high praise of him, and like he sounded like he really, not even with just you, but he sounded like he brings people up like Delonte Hood, Cam Taylor-Britt. I mean, he likes putting the best out of people, and I can see it with you as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's a perfect description. Eli is the type of person that brings the best out of somebody else. I would definitely say that too.
I think that's a perfect way to describe him. Could you also tell us so far, like, I know you haven't been in the NFL too long now, but could you tell us like the difference maybe between some of the other leagues, like the German league, just the atmosphere, the training camp, and just what the drills are like? Is there any key differences, or are they actually relatively similar?
I mean, I think the key differences would definitely, of course, everyone knows the athletic level and like the competition level from the GFL and NFL. It's a drastic difference, but I would say coaches too, like the amount of like information that my coaches know from here to GFL. There's also a big difference in there. Like they know like the ins and outs of just everything. So, I mean, I think that was one of the big differences. And just like the playbook here is a lot more complex. There's a lot more reads that there is. And like in Germany, they don't have high school football. Like you don't play for a high school football team. So it's different from there. So they can't have as much like football knowledge growing up if they don't just do it on their own like we do here in the US. So I would say the playbook is probably one of the biggest things for me, and just trying to understand it and learn it. And in practices, coaches are very technical of everything. The way you plant, how you plant your foot, the way you come out of your break, the direction of your break. And like it's very, very, very technical, because at the end of the day, football is a game of inches, especially in the NFL. One wrong step can be the difference between a touchdown and an interception. So they're very technical here in the NFL. The playbook's a lot harder, of course, but I'm understanding it each and every day, and the amount of knowledge that the coaches know is just like it's immense.
Of course. And going back to your journey again, through college, the COVID, Germany and stuff, it seems like you've had a lot of trauma dumped on you. You said it was very traumatizing during the draft and stuff, not being able to hear your name called up. Did you ever go through any depression at all at any point, or was there always that fire in you to keep working, or just what were the emotions like
I mean,
throughout the whole process?
there was definitely a lot of depression that came after that NFL draft. The sense of just not being good enough to even have an opportunity. It was very, very difficult that year, from like May, like April, yeah, May of 2020 all the way through, well, May of 2021. Probably the most depressing year of my life. It was so difficult. I moved back home with my family, which I wasn't used to because I was always away from home for like 5 years. And just like, it was really tough on me. I felt like I was doing everything. I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. I felt like I was super athletic. Like, I just, it was hard for me to wrap around my head that I was not good enough. to get an opportunity. And I knew a lot of people around me that were getting opportunities. And so like it was so traumatized. Even this year, the 2022 NFL draft, I tried to watch it. I started crying. I started crying when, right before they were getting ready to announce Aiden Hutchinson's name, and my mom came and turned off the TV. And she was just like, Abu, I'm not allowing you to watch this. I said, Mom, no, I'm fine. I promise. Like, I'm okay. She goes, no, because 2 years ago today, I know what you went through, and I knew how hard it was. She goes, I'm not allowing you to go through that again. So she turned off the NFL draft. She said, come hang out with me. We're going to go do something. And then she took me out the house. So it was very difficult. And even this year, I couldn't watch the Super Bowl. I couldn't. I was delivering pizzas for Donato's. I was a pizza delivery driver trying to make a dollar, and it was difficult because I was crying then too. Just to think that like I was bawling my eyes out every time I got into my car, and I just had to like try to hear the game through ESPN or something, or just every time I delivered a pizza, I would ask them like, "Hey, what's the score?" and this and that. I think that I just had to wipe my eyes and just keep it pushing because our orders were piling up. I got home and there was like 5 minutes left on the clock, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch it, not knowing that was gonna be my team. It was, man, traumatizing. Yeah, definitely. I definitely went through a huge depressive stage between 2020 and 2021, and even coming back to the U.S., it was just a lot of a lot of trauma. Just thinking again, like, oh, I'm still not good enough. And after having my CFL tryout and not getting a phone call back saying they wanted to sign me, it was just another thing of saying like, man, I'm maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or I'm just not good enough to play in these leagues. So it was definitely traumatizing, and I did go through a lot of depression within the last 2 years.
Absolutely. I mean, you've definitely gone through so much with all of that going on, and you working to make a buck, and your mom being there to care for you and help you out when you needed it. It's such an easy story to just look up at and just appreciate. Um, I think before we go, we could fire off a few rapid fire questions, just something real quick.
Got
You
it.
know, questions about the team we might have. Nicholas, you got anything you may want to fire off?
I mean, it's just a small question. I'm just wondering, do they count you as a rookie still with like others like Delonte Hood and Cam Taylor-Britt, since you've been technically NFL eligible for the past few years? So they count you as a veteran.
They count me as a rookie because this is the first time I've been on any NFL roster.
Okay.
Who would you say is the biggest hype man on defense?
Hype man on defense. Oh man, that's honestly a tough one to say, but I'd probably say either BJ Hill or Von Bell.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, I'd say Trey Hendrickson would be up there, but you haven't met
Trey
him yet.
Hendrickson's
So
more of a trash talker, though. He likes to get in
yeah,
your
but
face.
Yeah.
just
Say it
remember
to
he
you.
hasn't been to OTAs yet, so you haven't actually met him yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. What about Joe? Do you think separates him from other quarterbacks?
He is one hell of a leader. I met Joe while I was on the urinal. He knew my name, he knew what college I went to, and he knew what the weather was like there. I was the last guy on the team signed, and he's basically the number one guy on our team. And for him to go out of his way to find out who I am meant so much to me. And that's how I knew this guy is a great leader.
That's honestly incredible to hear that he did all that research for you. That actually is very interesting. Okay, I guess for me, my last rapid fire question, I'd say, have you had any Skyline yet? Any
Well,
Cincinnati style chili?
it's funny because I'm from Columbus, but I've never had Skyline chilling before, and I'm still curious to have it. I think me and my buddy Dax Hill will probably go out one of these days when we get back to Cincy and have it together.
That sounds awesome, man. Nicholas, anything left for you?
No, that's all I got. But I haven't had Skyline either. I mean, going to Ohio next month, gotta try it then.
Yeah, definitely got to try it out. Why not?
Yeah.
All
Well,
right. Well, I think that's good for us, right, Nicholas?
I think that concludes it. Thanks for coming on the show. Abu, really appreciate you having the time to come on.
Hey man, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate the way you guys have been supporting me and helping me get my name out there. And a guy that comes from such little to where I am now. Every little gesture like that has been such a blessing and so appreciative. So I just want to take this second to say thank you for welcoming me to your city. Thank you for welcoming me to your podcast, and thank you for welcoming me to Houday Nation, because it's definitely a journey. The journey's not over yet, and there's lots of work to be done. But no matter what happened, I'm still appreciative.
Again,
Yeah,
definitely.
man.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it 100%. Your story is inspiring to so many other people. I highly urge everybody watching this to please check out Abu's story, support him, give him a follow on social media and stuff if you can. And again, good luck. Really good luck. I really hope you make the final roster, practice squad. Work hard, and we're rooting for you, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course.